Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Sandra Gabriel here, reporting to you live from Low Weston, Montreal. I am staying overnight on some official Bride and Groom magazine business, doing a quick hotel review and checking out the facilities for our brides and grooms getting married this year or next year, or who knows. We're going to have that write-up coming to you maybe in the next few weeks, so stay tuned on brideandgroomcanada.com. But in other news, so I wanted to do a write-up on the whole United Airlines thing, and I thought I'd create this video to go with it because I could probably speak it a lot better than I can write out everything. And I think I'm going to save the write-up just to talk about what United Airlines should have done. So if you look on my blog, sandragabriel.com, I'm going to have that coming up probably in a matter of weeks. I have a lot of writing to do, so you'll see it coming. And it's going to be all about customer service and, you know, what corporations tend to overlook in their planning and their policy writing. So yeah, I have a lot to say about that. But you know, I had to wait a little bit to talk about this because I didn't want to jump the gun and start making assumptions, as a lot of us have. My immediate thing is that United Airlines was wrong, and you know, this man should be compensated. He didn't have to be violated the way that he was. I mean, the man was bleeding. Come on, like how violent do you have to get your message across? But I'm glad I waited to do it because I got some insight this morning from the Michelle show. If you haven't heard about the Michelle show, you need to follow Michelle Golding to get in on his show every morning. But I had to wait, and I got some information from the Michelle show this morning. So Michelle had a guest who is a pilot who gave us a breakdown of some insight, some things that we might not know. And what I learned is that a lot of times when you buy your ticket, you're basically signing up for a contract, which is pretty much with anything. Anytime you give your email, anytime you're exchanging money or anything like that, you're pretty much signing up for a contract. And the airline contract says that at any given point in time, if you're asked to give up your seat, legally you have to give up your seat. So the passenger was wrong in that he broke the law. He broke his contract. But you know, my whole thing is, how many of us, you know, read contracts? I am super guilty of just throwing my email here, buying this, buying that, and not reading the contract, because a lot of us don't do it. So my response when I heard about this contract clause was, you know, let he who reads every word of his contract cast the first stone, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't read their contracts. So it's hard to say that, well, this guy knew what was going on. A lot of times we don't read it, and I know it's negligence. It's up to us to read it, but here's what could have happened. I don't know if this happened or not, but did they explain to the passenger and say, sir, as part of your contract that you paid money to, you are obligated to give up the seat or you face fines or felonies or whatever the case was? I don't know if that was communicated. The other thing that we didn't know is that, well, or a lot of us did know, is that the officer who violated this man was not a United Airlines employee. He was law enforcement, so he was completely separated from United Airlines. United Airlines really took a hit because it happened on their plane, but it really wasn't up to them. It's pretty much similar to, let's say, you know, your in-laws are at your house and you know your father-in-law beats up your father. Is that your responsibility? Should your household name go down for that? I don't know, but it's kind of that thing where it happened on your property, but it had nothing to do with you. Does that excuse United Airlines? I don't think so, because at the same time, what I learned is that the captain could have stepped in at some point and maybe done something, or the crew members could have stepped in and tried to fight for the man. I mean, if the story was that you know, law enforcement came and was beating up this guy, but then there's like 3-4 stewardesses and the captain trying to pull him off and beating up the law enforcement, yeah, that would have been a story for United Airlines. But apparently that did not happen. The other thing that I'm concerned about is who gives the order to use brute force if necessary, because that's where the real blame lies. I know a lot of times, maybe in military or in law enforcement, they'll tell you, you know, if it comes down to this, don't be afraid to use force. So that's where I think we need to point the blame, is whoever gave this officer permission to use force when necessary. That's where the blame needs to be. Unfortunately, it happened on your flight, though, United Airlines. So I don't know if we can say that it's completely out of your hands because it happened on your property. I also learned on the Michelle show that apparently the flight, United Airlines might have been chartered, but it wasn't exactly their flight. It might have been their plane, but not their flight. It's some kind of thing. Anyways, so here's my thing. Here's what United Airlines should have done. And I'm going to write about this too, because I think it's a pretty nifty customer service piece that could probably help other airlines. And it's pretty drastic, but you know what? United Airlines, I think they lost something like 700 million or not, almost $1 billion. Okay. So my solution wouldn't cost that much at all. But here's what United Airlines should have done. If I was United Airlines, now some people make the argument and say, it's better to piss off 4 passengers than all passengers, but 4 passengers and $1 billion compared to 100 passengers and you still get to keep your name is, it's a no-brainer if you ask me. I would have gotten on the horn like all captains do and said, we need to ask all passengers to deboard the plane, collect your things and deboard the plane due to unforeseen circumstances or whatever excuse they wanted to come up with. Get everybody off the plane and tell them that there's going to be, everybody would have been upset. Probably a lot of people would have said, oh, there would have been a story. Yeah, a lot of people had to get off the United Airlines flight and they're upset about this and they're upset about that. But I don't think it would have cost them $1 billion is the point I'm trying to make. Get everybody off the plane and let them know that there's going to be another flight ready to go in about 10-15 minutes. That would have been the nice buffer, because the reality is that they're going to slowly but surely get people back on the plane except for 4 people. So tell everybody, for unforeseen circumstances, everybody has to get off the plane. There's going to be another flight ready to go in about 10-15 minutes. So everybody had to get off. And then what you do is, as people are in the waiting room, just ask them, please wait in the waiting area. You're going to be called for your connecting flight or your next flight. And as people are waiting there, you call them up and say, would you be willing to give up your seat for double what you paid? I'm sure they would have had something like 8 people volunteer, 10, 20 people volunteer. If they call them back up one by one and say, would you be willing to give up your seat? We're going to be paying you double what you paid, but it doesn't look like we have a flight that can accommodate you. Now that's where it might get sticky, because people might say, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's no flight to accommodate me? The truth is there is a flight, but being in PR, you have to be able to spin things a little bit. But I think it would have caused a lot less harm than all of this. This is something that's going down. Have you seen the memes? I saw one that said something like, United Airlines, come as a doctor, leave as a patient. It's hilarious. There's so many things that went on, okay? And I'm just like, all of this could have been avoided. It would have been a huge thing to try to get everybody off the plane, but I don't think it would have cost them $1 billion plus their reputation, all this confusion, I think. And this man who now, apparently he's facing 4 felonies because of that contract that he broke, and all the distress and all of it, I think it could have all been avoided. The other thing, okay, now this is me getting a little bit personal here, because being in the field of PR and communications, a lot of times, especially in corporations, people in my field, we're called to the table, we're called to the boardroom, and we're there when all the talking and discussing and the decision making is going on. But our advice and our feedback is very rarely taken into consideration. This is something that I learned in school. Maybe it's different now, but what I learned is that there might be some big decision of something going on, and little old PR person or communications person will pipe up and say, well, shouldn't we consider this? And big boss will say, oh, but that's not really going to happen. That may not happen. We don't have to worry about that for now. And then almost $1 billion later, you have to worry about it. So I could almost see, okay, I have a vision of the conversation that went on for United Airlines. And it kind of went something like this. PR person pipes up about what they're talking about, and they said, shouldn't we consider what might happen if we overbook and then we have to take somebody off? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if we have to use force? What are we going to do here? What are we going to do there? What do we have in place for that? And what happened was Big Boss turned around and said, that's a 1 in a million chance that will happen. We don't have to worry about that for now. And the little PR person sat back and said, okay, do as you will. I will not say anymore. But, the funny thing about our role is that it's important that we do speak up and say something. It's important, even though we think it's a bad idea, it's not wise for us to keep it to ourselves. At least if it was said, Sandra did bring up that point in the board meeting, and they'll brush it off. And then $1 billion later. Anyways, that's just my personal shtick there. Anyway, so that's United Airlines. I also wanted to touch on some breakups this week. Janet Jackson, number 1. Number 2, T.I. and Tiny. So apparently Janet Jackson has a $500 million prenuptial agreement, and it looks like she skipped out on her marriage. 5 years and 2 months after the prenup was to take effect. And some are saying that it wasn't planned. I don't believe she planned it that way. I think something might have gone wrong in the marriage along the way, and she's like, you know what, I only have a few more months or less than a year. Let me just wait it out, get the money that I need to raise my child and take care of myself. Not that Janet Jackson needs the money, but listen, I don't have children, but I can tell you studies show that by the time your child reaches 17, you would have spent at least $1 million. So I know it's not cheap to have children. So it's good to get all the money that you can get, especially if you want to put them in programs and send them to the best schools and whatnot. And being a child of Janet Jackson, you have security and things. You can't send them to any school. I mean, it's not going to be cheap. Anyways, so that was one. And then T.I. and Tiny. So this was surprising, unexpected. And it looks like he's the one doing the divorcing. Like, it's not like the woman leaving the man. Am I being sexist here? Anyways, I just feel like it's kind of like the roles are turned. And he's saying that, he'd be a better best friend to Tiny. And at the same time, his marriage was a distraction. Doesn't that hurt to hear that as a wife? Anyways, long story short, nothing lasts forever, I guess. I don't know what to say to the matter because I'm not married. I've never been married. I have this idea in my head that once I get married, I'm going to stay married. But who knows what goes on in a marriage? To me, that was just things that I wasn't expecting. On Janet's side, though, I don't know. This was her 3rd marriage. So I don't know. You tell me. Did you see this coming? Did you not see this coming? And then for T.I., I mean, I completely did not see that coming. But, the reasons that he gave to me were, okay, you didn't know you wanted to do other things when you got married, then that eventually your marriage would be a distraction. I don't know. I know that people change along the way. Do you need to get a divorce because of it? I don't know. I'd like to think that if I'm in a marriage and I'm changing my mind about something, oh honey, I want to start traveling the world now. He'll say, well, okay, I'll travel with you, or okay, I'll meet you every other week or every other month in a different city. But to me, the whole thing about marriage is staying together. What do I know? Let me not even go there. In other news, 2 more pieces of news that I came across is that America is coming to Canada. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the business. So I recently did a press tour in Las Vegas, and I stayed at the wonderful Nobu Hotel. And I come back to Canada to find out that Nobu is opening up residences in Toronto. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then the best news ever, okay? Cheesecake Factory is coming to Toronto. Oh my gosh, I can almost dance, okay? If you don't know Cheesecake Factory, cross the border today. Go and order yourself. The best dish that I had at Cheesecake Factory was a seafood pasta. Oh, it was so delicious. And the cheesecake is good too. And the salads are good too. It's just a really great place to go and eat. Anyways, Cheesecake Factory is coming to Toronto. So I'm very excited about that. It seems like America is coming to Canada slowly but surely, one by one, the businesses, then it's going to be the people. Next thing you know, we're going to turn around and America is just barren land. I don't know what's happening. And last piece of news, it breaks my heart. Charlie Murphy. We all know Charlie Murphy from Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories on the Dave Chappelle Show, and this is again unexpected news. I didn't know he was sick, although some people are saying that he did look like he was kind of losing weight towards the end there, but I didn't hear that there was anything wrong with him. So when I saw that he died, of course I checked at least 10 to 12 sources and found that it was true, and I'm so sorry to hear it. You know, my prayers go to Eddie and his family. I pray that they stay strong during this time and that they find healing and that they find comfort in the name of the Lord. And again, you know, to me, it's just a reminder that our time here is not guaranteed. We don't know when our day is. Life is so short. And this is one of the things at the beginning of the year, if you're following me on Facebook, I had put out a video called Taking the Leap in 2017, and one of the things that I spoke about in order for us to take a leap is to get started and to just move and go forward with the things that we want to do, because our time is not promised here, and a lot of us are sitting on the sidelines kind of waiting for the perfect moment, or waiting for the perfect weather, or waiting to be in the best shape, or waiting for this or waiting for that. And honestly, in the midst of your waiting, you could lose your life. I mean, it sounds graphic, but it's true. So rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. We miss you. We're going to miss you. I thought, you know, seeing Dave Chappelle come back, I'm like, for sure Charlie Murphy's coming back, but unfortunately he's not. So that's it. That's my news roundup for today, guys. Again, don't forget to check the blog, sandragabriel.com. I'm going to be talking about what United Airlines should have done, and it's pretty much just going to be a write-up of what I spoke about today. And maybe I'll do this again next week. This has been fun. This is actually my very first news roundup, so we'll see how the next few go and take it from there. Ciao, guys.